Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And for the Rankin Technical College Application and Website Development, or AWD program, I have been creating a website for a mythical gym, even though there is a real gym by that name, that's called Jacked and Jilt. And so far what I've done is I've come through here and I've created a fairly simplistic main page and an about page. Alright? But when you look at either one of the pages, what you're going to find is if I shrink my screen size, it doesn't look bad here, but as I start shrinking it down, you can see that literally it has no responsiveness to it. All right? And the about page, it just looks a little weird for lack of better words. So I'm going to try to fix that up. And before I do, I wanted to say a couple words about media queries. All right, so I went out to w3schools.com and look for a nice definition for a media query. And it says that media queries were introduced in CSS3 and it was a way to include a block of CSS properties only if a certain condition is true. Well, let's keep this very simple. Media queries can help. They are one way or one thing that can be used when you're worried about responsive web design. In other words, you want your website to look good regardless of the device it's being used in, and it's oftentimes used in what's called mobile first development, when you develop first for a small size device and then worry about a bigger size. Now they've got all sorts of examples in here, and it was pretty good. I read through it, or maybe didn't read the whole thing, but I looked through it, okay? But down towards the very bottom, it says, for a full overview of all the media types, etc., please look at the media rule in our CSS reference. So I brought that up. CSS media rule, and again, just full of all sorts of stuff. All right. But they go through there and they talk about things that you might want to use media queries for. Width and heights of your viewport, which is your screen area, width and heights of the device, orientation, resolution, and notice it's virtually every browser, all right, even up through 9 of IE supports it, all right. Here's the syntax. When you use this, you can set your media type to print, or to screen, or to speech, or leave it off where it defaults to all. Now, people normally either set it to all, leave the default, meaning not set it, or set it just to screen. All right. Some of the features that are here, they're shown in here. I'm not going to run through any of this. Why? Because I want to get going and start working on this. Now, I'm going to leave this up here, and I want to show you one more thing, and then I promise we're going to get started. I'm going to hit the F12 function key. And when I hit the F12 function key, what happens is it brings up, I'm in Google Chrome, my Chrome tools. All right. And when I do this, if I come over to here, it says toggle device toolbar. So when I click there, all right, notice right now this shows how this page would look on an iPhone X. The key thing, though, is look at what it's showing. 375 pixel width times 812 pixel height. I can check in here and see how my site will look on a Galaxy. I can come up and see how it would look on an iPad. I can come up and see how it would look on an iPad Pro, which is basically the size almost of a laptop computer. All right. So why am I even showing you this? Well, if you look at mine right now, and I bring this up, and I hit my F12 key, all right, you can kind of see just how bad, for lack of better words, it looks. And when I start to bring in the phones, again, you can just see it's not set up at all currently, okay, to be looked at on any device, with the possible exception of a laptop or a desktop. All right, now this is not wide enough, which is why you don't see all of it there. Okay? So, I'd like to start fixing this. But it was kind of up to me as far as, well, I found this article online, and I showed this to you before with CSS tricks, and notice, do I want to account for every kind of phone, iPhones, non-iPhones, etc., every kind of tablet, every kind of laptop, etc.? Do I care about wearables, that kind of thing? So I decided to break this down. Again, I'm kind of stealing a page out of Brad Traversy stuff here. I'm using some of what he did, for lack of better words, as kind of a template. So I've got this thing that's called responsivedemo.html. Not really very much to it. You see, it's okay. Boom. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 listings. The first thing I'm going to do is go into my CSS, and I'm going to turn all those listings off. All right. So now when I do a file, save all, and I go back to here, and I view it, all I get is black. It's not showing anything. What I want to do is when my screen size reaches a certain size, I want something, for lack of better words, kind of magical to happen. All right? And you might say, well, what do you mean by that? I'm going to show you that right now. Okay? So I'm going to go into my CSS, and I'm going to start writing some media queries. Remember, this is the body, so this is everything, so this is how it's set up by default. And I'm telling it not to display any of those H1 tags that I just showed you. But I'm going to come in here and start putting in some media queries. All right? And when you look here, the way this is set up, we went from smartphone, okay, to tablet, to laptop, to other, to landscape. All right, so we're going smaller to bigger to bigger to bigger, then worrying about orientation. So let's start with the smartphone. All right. So you start your media queries with @media. Again, I could put all in here, which is redundant. All right, or I could put screen in here. All right, but I'm not going to put anything. I'm just going to leave it at @media. And what I'm going to say is, I'm not going to worry about a minimum width, because this is for a smartphone. I would be hard-pressed to think of a smartphone that would have a width that would be less than 300 pixels. But then I have to start worrying about, okay, what do I want for a maximum size width on a smartphone? In other words, where does a smartphone end width-wise, and where does a tablet start width-wise? So going back to what we had in here before, all right, again, I'm just going to go back, hit my F12 key again, as we did before, and I'm going to look in here. All right, so we've got what? An iPhone X, that's 375 for the width. And I've got, there's a Pixel, that's 411 for the width. A Galaxy, that's 360 for the width. All right, an iPhone X, that's 375. A 678 Plus, that's 414. It looks like about the biggest width that I have is about 415 pixels. When I go up to an iPad, it's 768, and when I go up to a Pro, it's 1024. All right, let's pick a number. All right, and a commonly used number here is about 500 for the pixels. All right, so I'm going to say here max width . 500 pixels. All right. Now, again, if I want to, just to be sure, I can say here only screen. Okay? If I do only screen, then I have to say and. Okay? So I've got here, this will apply only to screen resolutions with a maximum number of pixels of 500. So 500 and below. Okay? And let's say if that's the case, what do we want to have happen? Okay? What do we want to have happen? Well, what I want to have happen are two things. But now that I look at this, I want to take and add an ID to each one of these. ID equals, oops, take it from the top here. ID equals smartphone. And a little trick here, I'm going to come through here. Well, I guess I'm just going to do a regular copy. How's that? But this one will be tablet. This one will be laptop. This one will be other. And this one will be landscape. Okay? All right. So when I reach this point, so if I'm between 0 and 500 pixels, what I want to do, all right, is two things. First, I want the body, okay? Well, what do I want to do with the body? Well, I'll want, whoops, no, okay, come on, hit enter. Good golly. I want for my body here, not booty, body. Okay, I want to change the background color. So let's make the background color blue. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to have happen. But I also want that heading, which is not showing, that H1, to show. Well, we just gave that a name. We gave it an ID of smartphone. And it's an H1 that's underneath the smartphone. And so we want to display that. We'll display it in a block format. All right. Again, I'm not claiming this is my brainchild. I'm using Mr. Traversy's, one of his lectures, kind of as my template here, as my guide. So, what did that do? Well, the easiest way is to show you. You see it's black, no big thing there. Whoops, let me bring it back up, sorry. You notice how it got blue? All right, so right there, that's about 500 pixels. Now, why isn't it showing my smartphone heading? I'm not sure. We'll have to look at that. Okay. H1 ID smartphone. I'll have to look for that. Look at that. Okay. I want that to show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause for a minute, see if I can figure out what the problem is. All right, I think I fixed this. So if I bring this up now, if I bring up my demo, I ended up putting these into divs. But if I end up bringing it up, you'll see that it's black. But once I start to take my size, and once it hits 500 pixels, now you can see it. Okay? So that's the first one. This, I'm going to warn you ahead of time, this lecture will probably be a little bit longer. So that's our first media query right there. All right. Well, then let's do a tablet. And what I'm going to do is I'm just literally going to copy this entire thing that I've got right here and paste it back in. So this will be a media query for a tablet. And what I'm going to say here is and I'm going to put in here min width 501 pixels and max width, pretty much, I believe, a standard size for this is about 768 pixels. All right. I think I've got the syntax in here correct. So let's set the background here. Let's set it to pink. All right. And we're going to display, but this time what we're going to display is not the smartphone, but the tablet. H1. All right. So again, let's right mouse click on our HTML file, open it in Live Server. You'll see that it's blue. Well, that didn't do what I wanted it to do. So let's go back. Well, it's black again. That's good. It's pink. Should go to black to pink, and then it should go to blue. And it is. Okay. All right. Let's write a couple more of these. So again, we now have a media query in there for a smartphone and a media query in there for a tablet. All right. The next one that we put in there, I believe, was for a laptop. So again, I'm just copying it, bringing it down. We'll just say here laptop. So that'll be a minimum width of 769 pixels. And we'll give it a maximum of about 1200. And in that case, we want to display the laptop H1. And we want the background, well, let's grab a different color. How about green? Okay, so we'll save. We'll again come in here. In fact, let's just bring it up because we've already got it here, so we'll refresh. All right, so it's small, tablet. Oh. No, 2 pound signs, that's what we'll do that. Laptop, and then once it reaches a certain point, it'll go black again. Well, it should. Well, probably because our maximum width right now is less than 1280. All right. So we've got 2 more things to worry about. First is this is for other devices. All right, so that'll be something where the minimum width will be 1281. We won't have a maximum width. And we will turn this, let's just say, I don't know, purple. And we'll want to display the other. Something goofy is going on here with this machine. But so we've now got a media query for a smartphone, a media query for a tablet, a media query for a laptop, a media query for something bigger than a laptop. So the only thing that's really left in here, I guess we could call that widescreen or something else, big screen, whatever. The only one that we're still going to worry about in here is our landscape. All right, so this will be our media query for landscape. Now remember, with landscape, we're tilting it sideways. So we're not going to worry about the min width. Now we're going to worry about the min height. And, oh, that says 1281. That should have said 1281 pixels. That may be why that one didn't show. I don't know. We'll go back and look at that in a moment. But the minimum height here will be, let's say, we used 500 pixels before. Let's use that one. So how about with that, we'll just say gray. All right, and instead of other, we're going to say here landscape to display that. All right, come back into here. Let's do a file, save all, and let's open this with live server. Well, it's not wide enough to show that purple. I don't know if I did this, if it would work or not. It's not letting me pull that any further. So we hit our breakpoint. It goes to pink. We hit our next breakpoint. Goes to blue. So we're getting smartphone, we're getting tablet, and we're getting laptop here. All right. Let's try to play with our width. That doesn't appear like it's doing much of anything, so let's take a quick look. Min height of 500. Don't want the minimum height of that. I want the maximum height to be that. That would make more sense. All right. You'll notice how it's gray until it reaches that number of pixels. All right. But as I come through here, it's not changing now. Why wouldn't that be changing? All right. Why? Because until I make the height big enough, there you go. Now it'll start changing. Okay? So again, I don't think I can get the purple to show here. But I can get everything else to show. It'll go from green to pink to blue. All right? And as I play with the maximum height, I can get it to go to gray. All right? And I don't know if I change that one. Okay. Very quick, very down and dirty, cheap little thing. And I'm going to come back to this. Let me pause one last time, even though this is way too long already. There's one other thing I want to show you. I'll be right back. All right, just to quickly finish this up, I changed the font size and the padding a little bit in here. And I also came in and grabbed some code from online. What this code is designed to do right here is to show you the current screen dimensions. The reason I did that is I thought it would be a lot easier for you when you run this. Notice there is the current screen size. And our first break should come when this here reaches 768 or 767. Notice that? Now, it almost looks like we've got an error here, because we've got 768, we've got 769 covered, I believe, yep, and we've got 766 and 7 covered. Now there's 768. Now it does look like it's covered. All right, our next break should be at 500 then. There's 501. There's 500. We can also do the same thing, because that's our width and that's our height. Remember, with the height, we also did that. Notice it's 506. See how when it breaks to 500? All right, so I'm going to leave all of this in there. I think this was a good primer for what we're going to do to put in our media queries. and I'll come back with that lecture in just a couple moments.